Shalom. Shalom. Want to first and foremost give all honor, glory, and praises to the Most High. And we do so by Sham Hamashiach Yahawah. Not by Shem, but by Sham Hamashiach Yahawah. And that's spelled Sham. So look at you. Blue light reflecting off your retinas, head tilted down, neck bent, slaving for a dopamine hit that lasts 5 seconds before it leaves you empty again. I'm looking at the numbers right now, and I see a lot of you are ghosty. 41.1% of you are standing in the back of the room, eating the food, taking the notes, but you won't even hit the subscribe button. You're moving like you're scared the algorithm is going to flag you. You're already being tracked, family. You might as well stand for something, hit the button. Don't be a digital vagabond, right? We are here today to discuss an invasion. But first, you need to understand why this class is a mandate. I'm watching a generation lose its soul in real time. I see the fire in your eyes flickering out. I see the patience of the saints being traded for the scroll. You can't sit for a chapter anymore. You can't pray for 10 minutes without reaching for a glowing rectangle. Your attention span has been dismantled and your focus has been harvested. This brain rot is a spiritual leprosy that eats away at your memory and your natural affection until there's nothing left but a hollow shell. I'm doing this because if we don't anchor our mind now, we'll be swept away by the next trend into the lake of fire. Most of you think the colonization, ended decades ago. You think Big Brother, they warned you about, is in the movies. It's some future government agent. You need to wake up. Big Brother isn't a man in a suit. It's the algorithm. Facebook, TikTok, Instagram have colonized the very territory of your mind. They didn't need to put chains on your ankles when they put them on your dopamine receptors. Every time you scroll, you are paying taxes to a digital pharaoh. You think you're connected, you're being numbered like David in 1 Chronicles 21. The enemy has provoked this world to number the people, to categorize your desires, to predict your sins, and to sell your soul to the highest bidder in the ad auction. This is the Noema, the device of the serpent. According to the Thayer's, Noema refers to a mental perception, a thought, or an evil purpose device. They have weaponized your own thoughts against you. They're built a digital Babel and convince you to live in it. They replace the laws of the Most High with the terms of service of a billionaire. Tonight, we aren't just studying. We are performing a decolonization. We are reclaiming the mind. We are pulling the wires out. Yahawah did not die so you could be a slave to a refresh button. Open your Bible. It's time to see the matrix for what it really is. The occupation of your mind ends tonight. So let's open up to the book of Colossians, chapter 3 and verse 17. And it reads, "And whatsoever ye do in word or deed, do all by Sham Hamashiach Yahawah, giving thanks to the Most High and the Father by Sham Hamashiach Yahawah." So let's pull up the presentation. All right, here we go. All right. The origin, subtle like a serpent. The blueprint, Genesis 3:1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, right? The snake, it was more subtle, which is the person, a man. In this instance, we're talking about the internet. So now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which the Most High had made. Let's look at this word, the subtle shift. The internet began as efficiency and connection, not overt evil. So there's something called ARPANET. And let me actually pull up the acronym for that word ARPANET, right? So we can understand the beginnings of the internet, right? So ARPANET, it means Advanced Research Project Agency Network. So this was the wide area packet switch network with distributed control established in the late 1960s by the U.S. Department of Defense. So the internet actually literally began with the military. It was began by the military, right? It says to the World Wide Web in 1990s. Now, you know, some of y'all may be old enough to remember getting those CD-ROMs inside of the mail, right? If you remember the CD-ROMs in the mail, the AOL, America Online, put a 1 in the chat. If you remember the AOL, the America Online, used to get that little 30-minute CD in the mail, right? And then once that 30 minutes was up, that was the end of your connection right there, right? 30 minutes, that's all you get. Put a 1 in the chat if you remember that those little CD drops that you used to receive. The deception, like the forbidden fruit, it promised eyes shall be open. Genesis 3 and 5. That's what the internet did. It opened up the eyes. It opened up the mind. It took you to a new world, to a new place, right? That you never seen before, right? From the comfort of your own living room. It gained dependency before revealing its nature as a system of bondage, because now that's what it came. It's turned into a system of bondage. The infrastructure, prince of the power of the air, the medium. Let's look at the book of Ephesians, chapter 2. Let's look at the book of Ephesians, chapter 2 and verse 2. Wherein time past ye walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air. This is dealing with going into, we look at a deeper level, your 5G, the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now worketh in the children of disobedience. The air is digital. Information travels through Wi-Fi, satellite, the literal playground of the adversary. This is how he's inside of your living room, right? The definition of device is noema, a mental perception, a scheme, or a purpose. The takeaway, the internet is a psychological device designed to bypass the spirit and target the flesh, right? And how does it target your flesh? You have your psychological vulnerabilities. Whatever you like, whatever you think about, whatever you enjoy, that's what you gravitate towards. Digital Babel, the great evil, the history. So Genesis 11 and 4. Let's look at that real quick. Genesis chapter 11 and verse 4. And they said, go to, let us build us a city and a tower. Now, if we just stop right there and look at that, right? Let us build a city and a tower. The internet is called the what? The World Wide Web. It's literally its own universe. And it's towers everywhere. You have towers, I mean, literally everywhere. They got fake trees they put into the forest, which literally are towers for your internet, right? Let us build us a city and a tower. Satellites everywhere. Everywhere is 5G. The internet is a digital Babel seeking to unify the world in a single language, code, without the Most High. You know, they got coding classes. This is how people learn how to become hackers, and they learn all this computer stuff. It's because it's a code. That's the language of the internet. It's a code, coding. Prophetic warning. Daniel chapter 12 and verse 4. Let me pull that up. Daniel chapter 12 and verse 4. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. We are in these last days where we have the internet, and yes, the internet can be is chiefly bad, but it can also be used for good. This is where knowledge is increasing, and this is how most people wake up and learn that they're Israelites. It's through watching maybe a YouTube video, watching a TikTok video, watching some short or something like that. So it does help increase your knowledge. You got Google, where you can research these things, but most people use it for folly. Most people use it for brain rot material, right? Section 2, the biological warfare, pharmakeia. Digital pharmakeia, the synthetic high. Galatians 5 and 20. Let's look at that. Let's look at Galatians 5 and 20. And it reads, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulation, wrath, strife, sedition, heresies. This is literally what the internet consists of right here, right? The chemical snare. Likes and scrolls trigger dopamine releases identical to cocaine and fentanyl. Let me repeat that again. Likes and scrolls, because that's what people are really searching for on the internet. Who liked me? Who's looking at my page? Likes and scrolls trigger dopamine releases identical to cocaine and fentanyl. Literally, the internet and the swiping and the scrolling, that's literally designed after how they do the slot machines in Las Vegas, right? Pharmakeia, the use of administering of drugs, sorcery. The reality, if you feel withdrawals when the phone is away, and we've all felt that before, right? You know, I'm lucky, I'm happy that I came up in a generation where internet didn't come around until I was like, man, 15, 16 years old, you know, kind of dating myself right there. But yeah, internet didn't come around until later on in life where I didn't have to really deal with these withdrawals. But there's kids literally that are born off the internet. As soon as they're 1 year old, a tablet is put right in front of their face, right? This replaces the attention that they should be getting from their parent or for the one that's being their caregiver. If you feel withdrawals when the phone is away, you are under the power of a digital substance, not the spirit of the Most High. So if you feel drowsy, if you get angry, right? If you feel antsy because you haven't checked your latest Instagram post to see who liked you on there, you haven't checked your latest TikTok dance to see what's going on, and you feel withdrawal, that's because you're not operating under the spirit of the Most High, but you're operating under the spirit of a drug, a synthetic drug, a synthetic high. The dopamine trap. This is the hunt. Your brain was designed to reward you for finding food or a mate. This is what will make people happy. You know, back in my day, you know, when I was, younger out there, when you wanted to meet a person, you wanted to meet a woman, right? You will go out to a club. You will go out to a bar, right? And you will get turned down. You know, you may have people, they may not be interested in you, but you moved on. Now, dating, right, is turned into an online, it's a swipe right or a swipe left. And then when someone gets they don't get no play, no swipes and stuff, they start feeling a certain type of way because they aren't getting that reward that they like, right? So they go on endless apps to find love. Now Silicon Valley has hijacked that hunt reflex. Every scroll is a pull of a digital slot machine. Like I said, that was literally built off of how slot machines in Vegas were built off of, right? The same concept applies there. The hit. When you see a like or a viral clip, right? When you you log on to your Instagram, you log onto your Facebook, your TikTok, and you see that somebody liked your stuff, you know, that becomes now your dopamine hit. Like, I got it. Someone finally liked my stuff. Someone finally likes this, right? We understand that likes, they turn into algorithm where your information is getting pushed more, but some people do this as a part of their life. This is all they are into. It's trying to find a like. Who cares about your like, right? It says when you see a like or a viral clip, the nucleus accompanies your reward center flashes. This is the high, the hunger. Dopamine isn't about pleasure. It's about craving. The high makes you hunt for the next hit before the current one even fades. The physical rewiring, the damage. If you hit a muscle with too much weight every single second, it tears. If you hit your brain with constant digital highs, it deforms. Right? So all that skibbity bop, whatever those kids are looking at, the Riz and stuff like that, that's nothing but a whole bunch of dopamine hitting you over and over and over and over and over again. The delta false B. This is a molecular switch that builds up in your brain during addiction. It physically makes you more sensitive to the digital high and numb to real life. So you become detached, right? Social media isn't social anymore. People are literally just advertising themselves out there. When Facebook had first started, and even before then, MySpace, because that's kind of actually, and before then, Black Planet, right? Who remembers Black Planet out there, right? Those literally were actual social websites that you will be on for a little bit of time, and then you'll log off and go about your business, right? But literally, social media isn't so social anymore. You got people that are offing themselves behind Facebook, behind cyberbullying, things of that nature. This is a molecular switch that builds up in your brain during addiction. It physically makes you more sensitive to the digital high and numb to real life. This is what you got. You got kids out there called incels, right? Involuntarily celibate. They're numb to real life. PFC thinning. The prefrontal cortex is your command center. So your prefrontal cortex, that literally doesn't finish developing until you're 25 years old. Now you have a generation A, right? Generation Alpha, that's literally has had a screen in front of their face their entire life, right? So imagine how their prefrontal cortex is going to develop. They speak a whole different, this new generation speaks a whole different type of language. It says, is your command center. It handles your will and your focus. Constant and digital highs thin this area out. You aren't just distracted. You are losing the physical hardware required to stay disciplined. The hangover, the crash. The brain demands balance. If you force a massive high, the brain responds by forcing a massive low to protect itself, because your body is meant to protect itself. When you get sick, that's your body fighting to heal itself and get better. Your body is, you're pretty much, your body is meant to keep you alive. This is why when you're underwater, you can hold your breath but so long. That's your body saying, you know what, we have to live. So it's doing everything possible to live. Down regulation. Your brain deletes its own dopamine receptors because it can't handle the flood. When you put the phone down, the world looks gray. You feel bored, irritable, and anxious. And that's the problem right there, because we have to feel bored at some times. Boredom is so important, because from boredom, that creates what? Creativity. You're going to pick up a pencil. You're going to pick up a color pencil, and you're going to start drawing. You're going to start writing down notes. You're going to start thinking. You're going to start brainstorming. There's nothing wrong with being bored at all, because you are now able to reflect in your own thoughts. But this is a generation that doesn't want to be bored. They constantly want something in front of their face 24/7. You feel bored, irritable, and anxious. This isn't just how you feel. It is a dopamine deficit. You are crashing from a drug you didn't even know you took. The bottom line, the digital high turns you from a creator into a consumer. From a creator into a consumer. It weakens your focus, thins your brain's command center, and leaves you in a cycle of seeking a hit that never satisfies. The lust of the eyes, the body. The digital high begins when the eyes, you scroll, you see, and you crave. You scroll, you see, and you crave. This is the mechanical trigger for the dopamine hit. Scroll, see, crave, right? So you see something on television you want, something that you want to buy, but you really don't need. You see it, you crave it. Next thing you know, it's inside of your Amazon box. You receive it, you open up the box, and you play with it for a little while. First John chapter 2. First John chapter 2 and verse 16. Let me pull that up real quick. First John chapter 2 and verse 16. And it reads, for all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh and the lust of the eyes and the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world. You scroll, you see, you crave, you lust after it, you want it. Proverbs 27 and 20. Hell and destruction are never full. You're never satisfied. You want more and more and more and more, right? Whether it's TikTok, whether it's Instagram, and you just go into a complete doom scroll. And you start off, it's 10 minutes on your phone, right? You just scrolling. Next thing you know, 10 minutes then turn into 3 hours. We all have found ourselves. I'm guilty of it as well. We all find ourselves looking at something. You may take a little 5-minute break. Even when I'm putting these lessons together, I may put, pick up my phone, look at it for about, thinking I'm looking at it for 5 minutes or so. Next thing you know, it's midnight already. It's like, man, I'm only on slide number 1. We've all been failed to doom scrolling, and that's a problem. Eyes, the mental and physical fountain of perception. Just as the digital scroll is infinite, it's an infinite thing. When you scroll, it's going to keep on refreshing itself. The carnal eye is a bottomless pit that never says enough. This is how we become a slave to this technology right here. The digital high, it numbs the soul. While the body feels the rush, right? That's that dopamine hit. The soul becomes starved and enslaved to the sensation, right? What it feels like. I recently, got rid of my Facebook, Instagram, and things like that because I started to find myself becoming a slave to it, right? And I only want to be a slave and a prisoner to Hamashiach Yahawah, right? So I got rid of that stuff. Sometimes you gotta go outside and you gotta smell the flowers, smell the roses, as they say. Let's look at First Peter chapter 2 and verse 11. Dearly beloved, I beseech you as strangers and pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lusts which war against the soul, because it's a soul war. Everything, what is it? Job chapter 9 verse 24. The earth is given into the hands of the wicked. So they're going to use everything that's on this earth, in this world, to enslave you because it's been given into the hands of the wicked. Your Facebook, your TikTok, your Instagram. This is the hands of the wicked. War, stratomai, to serve as a soldier to wage war. Satan has waged war on you and you don't even know it. That's how subtle the internet is. It's waged war on you and you don't even know you're at war. The digital high is not a hobby. It is a military campaign against your mental and spiritual clarity. Satan has strategy. Satan is very strategic in how he captures you. He can't come out there and say, this is how I'm going to enslave you. It don't work that way. It has to be subtle, right? Very subtle. Galatians 5 and 17. For the flesh lusteth against the spirit. This is a soul war. Your flesh, and we had a class on this 2 weeks ago about this, right? Your flesh is fighting against the spirit. The spirit comes from the Most High. Your flesh, your body, your character, that's what your spirit is fighting against. And the spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary the one to the other, meaning they don't work together. They both go against each other. So your mind can be telling you, the spirit can be telling you, right? Hey, we got to do some studying. We got to do some work. But then the device inside your hand saying, oh, don't you want to see what happens on episode 3 of The Walking Dead? Or don't you want to see what the next Instagram post is from so-and-so, from Bad Bunny is, right? That's your spirit lusting against your flesh. They're contrary one to another. As discussed, the digital high thins the prefrontal cortex. Now remember, your prefrontal cortex, that only fully develops at the age of 25, right? The area of self-control. This is why you have teenagers, they do teenage things, right? Teenagers have no care and no fear for consequences at all. I remember when I was a teenager, I used to think I was invincible, right? You'll do things like, I don't know, you'll do things like what I used to do at teenager. You want to ghost ride the whip, do donuts. Excuse me. Ghost ride the whip, doing donuts, right? Doing all types of things that you would never do now that you are older in life, right? That's because that prefrontal cortex, it hadn't fully developed yet. So you're reckless. The area of self-control. The scriptures call this temperance or sober-mindedness. Without it, you are defenseless. Let's look at Proverbs chapter 25 and 28. He that hath no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down. So if you don't got no rule over the spirit and you letting your body, you letting the flesh take the wheel, you letting the flesh be the driver when it's supposed to be the passenger, that means you have no control. You have no self-control. You're going to do whatever your body, what feels good to you, right? 1 Corinthians 6 and 12. All things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient. Yet, you know, the internet may be lawful, right? There's no scripture saying that you can't use the internet, but it's not expedient to be on there doom scrolling all night, right? It's not expedient to let your brain just rot away from trying to find out what does Riz mean, right? It's not expedient for you to find techniques on mewing and getting a stronger jawline, right? These are the things that these kids are into right here because the internet has taken over. All things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought under the power of any, meaning I will not be a slave to any of these desires right here. You only need to be a slave to Mashiach Yahawah. That's it. You know, I started a new section where, you know, and it's going to get better and better. You know, I'm just still working with it, but going out, showing people how to shop, right? Going to the gym, right? These are things that takes us away from constantly being in front of a screen, looking at that flickering light, right? Improving your overall health, improving your overall mental health, your overall physical health, right? And not becoming a slave to endless scrolling. To be brought under the power of a digital high is to be a slave to a chemical pulse. The science of addiction, the rat in the cage, the mechanism. Let's look at that real quick. 2 Peter. Let's look at 2 Peter real quick. Chapter 2 and verse 19. While they promised them liberty, right? Because that's what they try to say the internet is. It's freedom. It's the World Wide Web. You know, just get on it, right? While they promised them liberty, they themselves are the servants of corruption. America Online. That's what it all started with. Yahoo. That's what it all started with. Servants of corruption. For of whom a man is overcome, of the same is he brought in bondage. So you have to overcome this stress trap. And that's what social media is. It's a stress trap. It's going to get you caught up. It's going to get you angry about what's going on in the world, something that you have no control over at all. You don't have no control over anything that's going on in the world. Only thing you have control over is yourself. That's it. And this is what we have to understand. Scrolling on there, looking about what's going on in the war, right? Who's bombing who, right? That's important stuff. But what you have control over is, do you have your stuff that you need inside your cabinets for when these things hit the fan, when Jacob's trouble comes? Is your body built up enough to endure? Are you able to run a mile nonstop, right? These are things that matter. But the internet will get you caught up into a whole bunch of nonsense. And you just stress out, and you done do all this panicking, and you haven't done no type of preparation. You haven't done no spiritual preparation, and you haven't done no physical preparation. Scientific facts, rats return to their drug lever when stressed, right? You return back to the internet when you get stressed. A better resolution is when you get stressed, go to the gym, right? And I'm highly stressed right now in my life. What I do, I go to the gym. I work out. I try to find an outlet other than the internet, right? The return to vomit, Proverbs 26 and 11. Let's look at that real quick. Proverbs 26 and 11. As a dog returneth to his vomit, that's you returning back to Instagram. You returning back to TikTok. You returning back to Facebook. You returning back to OnlyFans. You returning back to whatever site that you into, right? As a dog returned to his vomit, so a fool returned to his folly, right? You get right back into the same folly again. Satan uses the stress of the world to drive you back to your digital lever, social media, pornography, to numb the pain. The digital whoredom, pornography as pharmakeia. Proverbs chapter 5. Let's look at that. Proverbs chapter 5. In verse 3. For the lips of a strange woman drop as an honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil, right? Remember, the scriptures are manifold, right? For the lips of a strange woman. This is dealing with right here in this concept we're talking about right here. The internet, social media, right? Your phone knows what you want because you put inside your phone what you're looking for. If you're looking for, let's say, you want to get a new apartment, you want to get a new place, you type in places in your neighborhood where you live at, and next thing you know, you log off of it. Next thing you know, you get a whole bunch of Google ads about where you need to move at, right? Where you want to live at, school districts and stuff like that. You turn on your YouTube, that's all you see is a whole algorithm of nothing but places to live at as advertisements, right? For the lips of a strange woman drop as a honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil, but her end is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. The smooth mouth, that's the interface, the tech, high definition. It's like every single year you got to get a new television, right? I mean, all praise to the Most High. I have never been guilty of wanting to get a new TV every single year. High definition video, smooth streaming, and personalized algorithms are the lips of the strange woman, personalized to whatever you want. You see that ad over and over and over and over again. They are engineered to be smoother than oil to bypass your moral filters. The reality, the internet provides a multitude of whoredoms. Let's look at Nahum chapter 3 and verse 4. Because of the multitude of whoredoms of the well-favored harlot. Because you have so many different sites to go to for that, whatever you want. Whether if you're trying to look for different hair weaves, if you're trying to look for prom outfits, if you're trying to look for sneakers and you're trying to look for a hammer and stuff like that. There's so many different sites that you can go to find these things. Because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcraft that selleth nations through her whoredoms and families through her witchcrafts. Right? That are it says the internet provides a multitude of whoredoms that are accessible in total secrecy. You have something called the dark web that people access in secrecy, fulfilling the prophecy of the cloak of maliciousness. And we read that in 1 Peter 2:16. The chemical adultery, the science. Pornography releases massive unnatural floods of dopamine and oxytocins, the bonding hormone. This is chemical adultery. The internet, social media is chemical adultery. Yeah, you need it. You need it for your work. You need it to watch these videos, but you need to know how to balance. That's what's lacking here, is the balance, right? Don't always be on these devices. They got something called TextNet now. TextNet happened during the pandemic, right? When you had kids, they just stayed in their phone. They had their head down, tilted down, looking at their phone all the time. That chiropractors started seeing a curvature in the neck, right? Where you're not straight up anymore. Your posture has changed to now having a slumped neck. It's called TextNet. You can research this. The brain bonds to a cold glass screen instead of a wife or husband. This is the drugification of human connection mentioned by Dr. Limbick, right? And Dr. Limbick has a lot of good studies, right? This is a quote from Dr. Limbick. Proverbs chapter 6 and verse 32. Let's look at that. Proverbs chapter 6 and verse 32. And it reads, but whoso committeth adultery with a woman lacketh understanding. He that doeth it destroyeth his own soul. That's what the internet is doing. You are commit. You got something called an AI date, AI dating apps, right? This destroys your connection with people. This destroys your social connection and your interactions with people right here, right? You're not talking about, the Most High. You're not talking to your AI dating app, destroying your soul, destroying connections, destroying your life. The pornography arbitration, brain rewiring. Romans chapter 12 and verse 2. Let's look at that. Romans chapter 12 and verse 2. And be not conformed to this world. Repeat that again. Be not conformed to this world. That's right. The internet isolates you big time. Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of the Most High. The physical damage. The fact, just as a single dose of cocaine causes arbitration, growth of dopamine neurons, chronic pornography, and I know this is something people deal with. This is why I had to make sure I put a slide in. I'm talking about this. Use creates permanent roads in the brain for lust. Now you're trying to get a woman to do something that is impossible because you don't watch the actor over and over and over and over do it. So you think this is reality now when it's not reality, right? The next thing you know, your addiction, it gets worse and worse, right? How a gateway drug is marijuana, right? It's the same concept. You smoke a little weed, right? Next thing you know, you want to try some shrooms. Next thing you know, you want to do a little bit of acid. Next thing you know, cocaine. Then next thing you know, you all on fentanyl, right? You watch a little regular pornography, right? Then that regular pornography, it turns into something else. Then it turns into looking at animals, right? It gets crazier and crazier and crazier because you need more of that dopamine hit. That first hit ain't strong enough no more. You're chasing constantly that first high that you first had, right? But that first high never comes back again. That's what addiction is all about. The narrowing focus, the addicts loses interest in natural rewards, a real wife or a real husband, family or the word. The dopamine forest of the brain becomes dominated by the drug of choice. That's what dominates you. Whatever weird website you on, that's what you got it on your phone. You got it on your desktop. You're always looking for the latest updates on it. That has now become your drug of choice. Ask yourself, what's your drug of choice? Is your drug of choice Facebook? Is your drug of choice Instagram? Right? Is your drug of choice TikTok? Is it Kick? Right? What's your drug of choice? What streamer is it? Is it Kai Cenat? Right? Who is it? What's your drug? Ask yourself that. Do a self-examination of yourself and say, what's my drug of choice? What do I need to maybe cut out a little bit of, right? Not constantly just watching this over and over and over and over again, right? The death of natural affection, the science. Chronic use leads to tolerance. The user needs more extreme, strange, and wicked content just to feel normal, right? And there's a drug when people are getting off of heroin, right? I think it's called Suboxone. Somebody correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, but I think it's called Suboxone. That's the drug that people use when they get it off of heroin, right? Let's look at Jude chapter 1. Let's look at Jude chapter 1 and verse 7. Even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication. That's what that's what the internet is, right? Giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, because that's what the internet allows you to do, to go after strange flesh, are set forth for an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. When you go after these things, you're going to get the lake of fire. That's eternal fire. We got to understand that the Bible is a real living book. We can't just apply it to ancient times. We have to apply it to our time, to our dispensation of time, how we live, how we utilize it, not how John the Baptist was utilizing it during his time because that was his time. Not how John the Revelator was using it in his time because that was his time. These things are happening now, and we apply it to our lives. So fornication, these are things that you see through the internet. Strange flesh, right? Let's look at 2 Timothy 3:3. 2 Timothy 3:3. Without natural affection, because when you get into that pornography, you don't have natural affection anymore, right? Truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good. Pornography makes a man sociopathic, right? You become a sociopath towards his family. He is present in body, but possessed by the digital images in his mind. That's all you think about, right? I seen so-and-so do that in this video, so now I'm going to try to do that, right? Not being real. Making a covenant with the eye. The eye gate. The trap. Satan knows that the light of the body is the eye. Let's look at that real quick. This is like actually one of my favorite scriptures. St. Matthew chapter 6 and verse 22. The light of the body is the eye. That's going into your spirit, right? The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light, right? So if your mind is focused on Hamashiach Yahushai, right, following after the Most High, right, you are full of light. But if you are too busy watching things that are not of the Most High, your mind now becomes calcified with that. And the Most High is not in all your thoughts anymore. Right? Hamashiach Yahushua is not in none of your thoughts anymore, right? But now you have become a slave to your addiction. If the eye is evil, filled with pornography and darkness, the whole body is filled with darkness. The algorithm. Social media is now soft porn. I mean, come on, let's be real now. We be out there on Hollywood teaching, and we literally be seeing women that back in the day used to have something called indecent exposure, and you will get arrested if you were showing off your buttocks, off your chest or anything like that, right? But now there's nothing but soft porn right in front of little kids, right? That's pretty much what social media has become. That's what Instagram has become. The algorithm, and you know what? If you see this thing, if you're out on social media, because I'm not telling you, because I know it's unrealistic that people are just going to get rid of Instagram, Facebook, and all this type of stuff because people use it for their business and use it for other things, right? What I'm saying is balance it out. Take a step back from it sometime, right? Instead of wanting to do an endless scroll, maybe pick up a book and read, right? Instead of wanting to go onto the internet for hours and hours, go to hit the gym up, right? But if you do see these things on there, start correcting people. If you see a sister, they want to call themselves in the truth and stuff like that, and they're dressed in immodest apparel, correct them according to the scripture. If you see a brother doing some crazy things out there, got a blind, got tattoos on his forehead and whatever like that, correct them. Do it out of love, right? Because this stuff has to stop. These are things that you can change. You can first start with yourself, and then you can start with people that surround you. Social media is now soft porn. The algorithm uses scantily clad images to keep the users in a state of constant lust to ensure they stay on the platform. That's how they get you, to keep you always lusting. And it doesn't have to be women you're lusting after or men you're lusting. It could be food, right? They got a whole thing called food porn, right? Where you you salivate over just food. People watching people do something called a what's it called, a mukbang or something like. When you watch people just eat and eat and eat and eat, that's crazy. I literally seen a TikTok video. Well, not a TikTok. I'm on TikTok like that, but I think it was an Instagram, right? And it was a person that was just eating and eating and eating, and people. This person had hundreds and thousands of viewers, literally watching them in real time just eat. This place is falling apart. This place is really falling apart. Let's look at Job chapter 31. Let's look at Job chapter 31. And verse 1, I made a covenant with mine eyes. You have to make an agreement with your eyes. When you're dealing with social media, you have to make a deal with your eyes saying, hey, I'm only going to do it for X amount of time today, right? I'm only going to be on Facebook for X amount of time, right? And that's it. I'm going to put limitations on myself. I made a covenant with my eyes. Why then should I think upon a maid, right? Purge the device. If your phone causes you to offend, cut it off. Let's look at St. Matthew 5:30. And if thy right hand offend thee, cut it off, right? That's not literally saying take a hacksaw and just start cutting cut your arm off. No, whatever is causing you to offend, whether it's, you have your phone, because most people have to have the phone, right? You have to have it for work. You have children to pick up from school. You're going to need your phone. But how do you cut off the things that you are addicted to? Maybe put a timer on it. Maybe uninstall and delete the app, right? Maybe set up some type of boundaries where you don't have to go in there. There's apps out there that actually, if you have a pornography addiction, that they will literally monitor you, right? If you have an issue with something, dial up a brother, dial up a sister, and say, "Hey, man, I'm about to look at this, and I know I don't need to be looking at this," right? Phone a friend, tell them help you out. In the time of week, that's what we're here for. We are here to help each other out, right? But in the end, you have to work out your own salvation. So whatever you can do to limit your time on the internet, you want to try it. You want to do it, right? It says, "For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish," meaning it's profitable that you just get rid of the whole entire app and website, right? That's more profitable. "For thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell," right? That's the lake of fire. That's eternal damnation. Entertaining ourselves to death. Ahenadonia. Entertaining ourselves to death. The biological toll. Relentless pursuit of pleasure leads to anhedonia, the physical inability to feel joy. So what that means, you now become numb, right? You become video games, for instance, right? I was born in the 80s, raised in the 90s. We had games out there like, Mortal Kombat, right? You had games like Street Fighters. You had these games out. And back then they would say that these video games, they're destructive. They're going to make children do mass shootings and things like that. Why? Because your brain now becomes numb to seeing death, right? Now you got games like Grand Theft Auto. And now you got YNs running around here that literally think they're in some type of Grand Theft Auto video game, and they got and they're playing it on God mode, right? That it's going to spawn back into the same place they are in. A lot of you out there that's from Chicago, y'all think that, right? A lot of y'all out there that's from 63rd, y'all think that y'all going to just spawn back onto O Block again, right? From where you started off at, right? And I love Chicago. I'm messing with y'all. But yeah, y'all out there, y'all got to stop doing all that shooting out there, all that killing out there, right? That's you becoming numb to reality. Relentless pursuit of pleasure leads to anhedonia, the physical inability to feel joy, right? To feel excitement, to feel pain, right? The brain down regulates dopamines to survive the flood. Because remember, your body is always set in survival mode. Everything wants to live. Everything wants to live. This is why you can't suffocate yourself. Nobody can suffocate themselves. You're going to stop after a while because your body wants to live, right? You're going to take a breath, right? And people try to literally suffocate themselves by just smoking cigarettes away, right? And then what happens? You still don't die. You end up with lung cancer or something because your body wants to live. Everybody wants to live, right? Let's look at Proverbs chapter 14 and verse 13. Even in laughter, the heart is sorrowful, and the end of that mirth is heaviness, right? Because you look at something, you laugh for a little bit, and in the end, after you didn't watch it so many times, it's like, man, I just wasted a lot of my time right now doing nothing. Stop wasting this life away. Stop. Understand that you still have hope. We all have hope. Those that are watching live right now, and those that's going to watch the replay, You have hope right now to fix your life, to do what's right, right? To turn off the TV, to turn off the internet, to turn off of those things that just hold you back from the truth. You are building your own mental prison of depression by seeking digital mirth, right? Enjoyment. Section 3, the societal decay. The destruction of patience. This is a big one right here for me, right? Because this is literally something that we deal with every single Sabbath day. It went from brother, sister, you got 2 minutes for the Most High? Got to keep on walking. It went down to, hey, un momento, ven aquí, un momento. You got 1 minute for the words of the Most High? Keep on walking. Now, I mean, we're at the point now, brother, sister, do you have a millisecond for the words of the Most High? There's no more patience. Everybody wants things quick and right away. You want it microwavable, right? You want to just heat it up. And we understand when you put plastic into a microwave, eventually that plastic is going to seep into the food and give you cancer. That's what's happening with having understanding. You want things right away, and then the end product is not right. I came into this truth back in the end of 2008. Before YouTube got big and all these things, these devices came out. Right, we used to have to go into the library to look and study these things right here. Go get the card catalog and study these things, right? And it took time. It took buying your own books, right? It took time and patience, having notebooks, right? Writing things out to get the understanding of things right there. And I'm thankful for that time period I had to understand, because it helped me retain a lot of things. And now I'm able to add on to the things that I learned back when I was first coming into this information, coming into this truth in 2008, right? Now everything is microwavable. You think you got it all figured out after just being 1 year, 2 years in this truth, right? Because you can just look at it on Google. You can look at it on YouTube. Those things are good, but you need to have patience. It used to be a song, and this is way before my time, but let's just say, take your time, young man, right? Mama used to say, right? Who know that song out there? Take your time, young man, mama used to say, right? Proverbs chapter 21 and verse 5. Reads, the thoughts of the diligent tend only to plentiness, right? Diligent. That means taking your time, right? That's right. Let me put this on the screen. That's why shorts are so popular, for the quick gratification. That's right. You got to have that short, quick gratification, If you're going to use shorts, use it to your benefit to, hook on to whatever you're trying to promote that's towards the Most High, right? For most people, that's all they want to watch is just some shorts, Let me read it again. The thoughts of the diligent tend only to plentiness, but of everyone that is hasty only to want, because you don't want to take your time. Take your time, young man. Take your time, young lady, right? Mama used to say. But of everyone that is hasty only to want, right? Meaning you're going to be lacking. The death of long suffering. Let's look at Galatians 5 and 22. Galatians 5 and 22. And it reads, but the fruit of the Spirit. You hear this, Christians out there? Where you Christians at out there? The fruits of the Spirit. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace. Here we go. Long suffering. That means patience. Patient. Stop wanting that instant gratification. Stop having that microwave mindset. Patience. We lose patience with the word and the brotherhood or the sisterhood because they aren't instant, right? You haven't, that relationship you're trying to build with that brother or that sister is not happening as quick as you want. So you cut it off, right? That brother, that sister could be dealing with something in the world and you cut them off because you want this brother to be an instant brew overnight. You want this sister to be an instant brew overnight, right? This is the fruits of the spirit right here, to have patience with one another, right? Patience. Let's go to Ecclesiasticus 2:14, right? And like the brother said, the short is quick. It's for quick gratification. Quick gratification. Don't let your life be a YouTube short. Don't let your life be an Instagram reel, right? Don't allow that to happen. Let's look at Ecclesiasticus 2:14. Woe unto you that have lost patience. You hear that? Woe, that means destruction. Woe unto you that have lost patience. And what will ye do when Hamashiach Yahawah shall visit you? What you going to do? Right? Because you lost patience and now Hamashiach Yahawah is here. What you going to do? Woe to you that have lost patience. Don't lose patience with your brother or your sister. And what causes you to lose patience is social media. Right? You look at, you see the end result, and that's what you want right away. That end result. The commandments. Let's look at Exodus 21:16. Exodus 21:16. And he that stealeth a man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. Right? Because what you have out there on social media, right? You have trafficking, you have selling of people, right? You got literally you have a whole society called the dark web where people buy and sell people, trafficking, right? It has become that. He said the tray tube, that's why I have to quit. It's causing too many anxiety. That's right. This is what this class is for right here. It causes too much anxiety. Too much anxiety. Depression it causes, right? Let's look at Revelation. Chapter 18 and verse 13. Yeah, take a break from it. I took 3 weeks off. Y'all praise to the Most High. Good for you. Good for you. You got to take that time away from this stuff right here and focus on what really matters. What's in front of you, right? I got rid of my social media. It's feeling so good that I don't even feel like going back to Facebook and Instagram and them things out there anymore. It feels so good because you find more time now, right? You find more time to do things that you can actually, when you take time away from this stuff, you actually learn who you are, right? Because social media is designed so you can learn who somebody else is. And then you want to be that person, right? That's what I call influencers. They influence you so you can be like them. You can buy their t-shirt, buy their merchandise, right? And then you don't know who you are anymore, right? Who are you? That's what we need to ask ourselves. Examine your own self, right? Let's look at this Revelation 18 and 13. And cinnamon and odors and ointments and frankincense and wine and oil and fine flour and wheat and beasts and sheep and horses and chariots and slaves and souls of men. That's what's for sale. Your soul is what's for sale. The souls of men. This world wants your soul. Are you going to give it to them? And for how much? Right? For how many? Because they sell your information. Nobody's information is secure out there. And if you want your information back, you have to pay and purchase for different types of companies that will remove your information from offline to buy your soul back, to buy your identity back. It's a movie called, that came out a few years ago. They cloned Tyrone. You may be a clone out there. We may be have a clone out there somewhere, right? Because they know all your likes. They know everything that you want. They know all your desires, right? Let's look at Psalms chapter 91 and verse 3. Surely he shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowlers and from the noisome pestilence, right? The snare of the fowlers, predators. They use this right here to gain access to your children, the internet, Roblox, right? I had to make sure I cut that whole Roblox thing off from my daughter's devices right there, right? Because it's literally a place that causes so much harm. The internet is a place in whatever corner you're in on it, even if it's like dieting and extreme fasting. There's places that go so extreme on certain things that you have to really watch out for on the internet. Yeah, there's good things on the internet, but then there's more evil things that are good things on the internet. This is why it's so important to know who you are, right? Let's look at 1 Peter 2:16 again. 1 Peter 2:16. As free and not using your liberty for a cloak of maliciousness. Because the internet, it's free. You have the freedom to buy a phone and get unlimited data, but in the end, you might end up using it for maliciousness. As free and not using your liberty for a cloak of maliciousness, but as the servants of the Most High. That's right. You have to be a servant of the Most High. That's what you should be looking for in the end. How can you better serve the Most High? Sociopathy of addiction, the science. Addicts lose empathy and deviate from their moral compass. You see that? You lose empathy, feelings for somebody, feeling bad, feeling sorry for somebody, understanding someone's pain, what they're going through, right? They may have just lost somebody. They may have lost the wife. They may have lost the husband. They may have lost the grandma. You lose that empathy for people. And this is why you got YNs that is shoot up the block, because they have lost empathy, because they done played so much Grand Theft Auto. They done seen so many King Von, and they learn how to, they've been influenced by Demon Time, that little Jim, who they went to school with, they grew up with, they knew their whole life. Now we smoking on Lil Jim. We smoking on that Jim pack, right? Now we smoking on that Dante, right? Because you lost empathy for your fellow Israelite brother or sister, right? You don't care about them no more. Their life is meaningless, as if you squash them like they're an insect, like it's a roach or something like that. You just don't care. You step on them, right? That's what social media does, right? During that whole era with King Von and that Demon Time thing, literally the internet on Instagram, they allowed them to literally go back and forth, and nobody shut it down. It wasn't until after a lot of people got killed when they said, dang, look at all these threats that they made on Instagram, right? It's not too after the fact. When you find somebody that unalives themselves, right? And they done put all these messages on the internet talking about how they're going to do this, how they're going to do that. And no one takes it serious at all. And then the next thing you know, that person is no longer here, right? Because you didn't take a time to turn off the internet. Let me call so-and-so up, right? What's going on with you? Checking in on them, doing a welfare check. Do a welfare check on your brother and your sister. Stop just always seeing what they posted and the pictures they posted online. Do a welfare check on your brother and your sister, right? See what's going on with them. See where their mindset is at, right? Because that one phone call that you do, it could save a brother. It could save a sister's life. Let's look at 2 Timothy 3:3. Without natural affection, that's what that is. Natural affection. We have it no more. We have to learn natural affection. You become a digital zombie, a reprobate mind. Romans 1:28. Let's look at Romans 1:28. And even as they did not like to retain the Most High in their knowledge, because when you have that microwave, mindset, you want things that's quick, fast, in a rush. You don't want to take your time to look into it. You don't retain the Most High in your mind anymore, right? And even as they did not like to retain the Most High in their knowledge, the Most High gave them over to a reprobate mind. I mean, he gave you over to stupidity. You like things like skiddity, what is it, skiddity bop, when they had that person in the toilet and it goes down. You go over to stupidity, to do those things which are not convenient. Meaning you just do stupid stuff. You just become literally just an airhead. You become a digital zombie, a reprobate mind that cannot perceive the needs of your own children or household. You know, you're just unrecognizable. Strong delusion, AI and digital idols. And this is another thing that's big right here. It's AI, right? Who knows if this war is really even real, right? You know, we know what the scripture tells us. Wars and rumors of wars, right? You know, I dare everybody to go to, YouTube, and do some research on the people of Iran and see how they're really living over there, right? Are they really doing the things that, the world says, right? Is any of this stuff even real, right? Are we living in a simulation, right? Are we all just AIs? This is literally what this thing has now come down to. Strong delusion, AI and digital idols, the tech, deep fakes, and AI chatbots. Silky syntax, create a world where nothing is real, right? Nothing is real. That's scary right there. You know, there's let me see if I can find this thing. They created a dragonfly in the 1960s. Let me see if I can find that. They created a dragonfly in the 1960s. Let me see. Bear with me real quick. Let me see if I can find this. The CIA created a dragonfly. Let me show y'all something real quick. Let me show y'all something real quick. So they created a dragonfly. All right, give me 1 second. I'm going to show y'all what they created. And they were doing this in the 1960s, right? Okay, come on. Try to check this out. Get with me. Y'all talk amongst yourselves while I pull this up real quick. Let me show y'all this. This was created in the 1960s. Here we go. Let me share my screen. All right, check this out. Right. All right, look at this right here. This is what the CIA created this in the night. Yeah, that's my AI, commercial on AI. That's crazy. But this is what we're talking about. I want y'all to look at this. Robotic dragonfly created by CIA. See that? Look at this. You see this right here? It says the spy device had a laser beam to work as the data link for the audio sensor payload. Now, again, this was created in the 1970s, right? So think about that. You had this technology in the 1970s. So you don't know if you're even really looking at real birds right now, real bees or anything like that right now. If you had technology like this in the 1970s, right? So let me show a little bit more of this. Looks like a real dragonfly. And they tell you the project was scrapped, but yeah, right. You believe that if you want to. But yeah, so let me pull back up the slideshow. They had that type of technology right there in the 70s, right? So who knows what is even real? Who knows what's real anymore? Let's see. All right, let me pull up the screen, the slideshow again. Oops. Yeah. So strong delusion, AI and digital idols. So even with AI, right? You know, this is crazy right here because AI actually is plain stupid when you think about it. You know, when with people, with us, with scientists and everything, it takes years for things to develop, right? It takes time. It may take 5-10 years for something to develop into its final product, right? AI can literally take information and literally within seconds, it can create whatever you want it to create, right? You know, I went to school for digital media, right? And it took time to learn digital media. Now you can literally just put in a prompt and it will create whatever you want it to create. You know, that art is now gone. You know, so AI is probably smarter than what you think it is. AI is probably actually plain dumb, right? It's acting like, you know, you're asking it questions and you're showing it things and stuff like that. When AI living conscious, who knows? The tech, deepfakes and AI chatbots, silky syntax create a world where nothing is real. Let's look at Second Thessalonians. Let's look at Second Thessalonians, chapter 2 and verse 11. And for this cause, the Most High shall send them strong delusion, that they shall believe a lie. See that? We all have been deceived. Social media is deceiving us. AI is deceiving us. We're literally being, catfish. Literally, we're literally being catfished. A profile is a digital idol. Let's look at Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14 and verse 12. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14 and verse 12. For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication, and the invention of them, the corruption of life. So now we have made these little gods right here. Call our devices our phones, right? And we worship it. We worship the algorithm, right? We worship likes, right? We worship these things. We chase after these things, right? To what end? Is it the end so you can spread the Most High's word? Or is it so you can be more vain and vanity and things of that nature, right? The sin of David. Let's look at 1 Chronicles chapter 21 and verse 1. 1 Chronicles 21 and 1. 1 Chronicles 21 and 1. And Satan stood up against Israel and provoked David to number Israel. This social media, your Instagram, your Facebook, and whatever other site you on, they are numbering you. They know what you like. They know what you dislike. They know your desires. They know everything about you. They have got you numbered. And then they sell your data. It's called data mining. Digital IDs. So you move from the trust from the Most High to statistics. The digital census. Every thought and movement is now tracked in real time. There's cameras everywhere. CCTV is everywhere. Right. That's right. So our younger generation can pick that up. That's right. Let's look at St. Matthew 24. St. Matthew 24 and 14. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. We are literally living in the end. We use the enemy's wires only to wake up the elect. This is why we use the circuit. This is why we are on these broadcasts, right? But you know, the enemy, they know what we're doing, right? You know, literally on the Sabbath day, you know, I was having a class about the Vatican, and they literally chopped that thing up so bad and just sent me a message. They sent me an email. YouTube sent me an email, right? Pretty much. But yeah, we use the enemy's wires only to wake up the elect. 2 Timothy 2:15. Let me pull that up. Study to show thyself approved, right? 2 Timothy 2:15. Study to show thyself approved unto the Most High, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. That's what we should always constantly be in, is constant study, and studying. Use the net as a library. Lexicons is history, not a playground. Don't use the internet just for your playground to have fun, right? We've been having fun for too much. For too long, we've been having fun. Hebrews 10:25. Let's look at that. Hebrews 10:25. Not forsaking the assembly of ourselves together. As I said, social media is not so social. On social media, all you have is this pretty much a whole bunch of advertisements and people saying, hey, look at me, right? A whole bunch of vanity on there. Not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together. Check in with that brother. Check in with that sister, right? As the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as ye see the day approaching. And what's the day approaching? The end. World War III. Check on your loved ones. Check on the brother or sister you haven't talked to in years and ages. Prioritize physical fellowship over digital clout, right? The 30-day digital sanctification or fast, right? And this is my challenge out here. This is my challenge out here, right? Let's see if you're up to take it. You know, we got a brother say he's been doing it. He's been off for 3 weeks, right? How about doing a digital fast, right? And see how you feel afterwards. The science. It takes 4 weeks of total abstinence to reset the brain's reward pathways, right? It takes just 4 weeks. You can rewire your brain to something new. You can learn something. You can even learn a language in that time period, right? You may want to learn French, Spanish, you know, your Italian, whatever. Rewire your mind. You know, like I said, go out to the gym. Go for a walk. You know, put your headset on and, you know, go for a run, right? While you're listening to Bible scriptures or verses, right? Just cut your screen time down. You know, you can fast from food. You can fast for water. Now how about fasting from digital media? So social media. How about fasting from that? It takes 4 weeks of total abstinence to reset the brain's rewards pathway. Psalms chapter 51 and verse 12. It's another one of my favorite scriptures. Psalms chapter 51 and verse 12. Restore unto me the joy of thy salvation. That's what you want restored unto you. The joy. Get the joy back in your life. If you used to like riding a bike, go ride a bike. Go fly a kite with your kids and stuff and everything, right? Throw a frisbee around. Go play with your dog somewhere in the park, right? Just get off of social media all the time and look at the world. Restore unto me the joy of thy salvation and uphold me with thy free spirit, right? Go to the beach, right? Let the sun hit you. The process. Expect withdrawal, anxiety, insomnia. So you best believe that's going to happen, right? Believe that's going to happen. Just how people go through withdrawals off the heroin, right? You're going to go through a digital withdrawal, right? It says in the first 14 days, this is the trial of your faith to allow the brain to find joy in the word again, right? To find joy in the word, the Bible, the Most High, right? The neurological siege, social media and brainwave dysregulation, the brain rot phenomenon, is not just a metaphor. It is a measurable state of neurological bondage. To reclaim your mind for the Most High, you must understand the electronic warfare being waged against your spirit, the alpha theta suppression, the loss of deep reflection. Like I said, it's a good thing to be bored. Don't say, oh man, I'm bored. And you just pick up your device and start scrolling. Being bored is a good thing. When you're bored, you draw, you may paint, you become creative. You may write. If you're a writer, if you're a singer, you may start writing, doing all those things, right? I mean, when I was growing up, if you're bored, you will literally go outside and play. You'll go find the house, and tell me if y'all remember this. Put a 1 in the chat if you remember this. If you're old enough to remember this. You knew where everybody was at, right? One way how you knew where everyone was at, all your friends were at, by the bicycles that were in the front yard. You'd be like, oh yeah, everybody's over so-and-so's house because all the bikes. Put a 1 in the chat if y'all remember that. You know? That's how you overcame your boredom. Finding something to do. Or even getting lost in your own thoughts. A lot of us are afraid about thoughts. And we're afraid to get lost into them. And this is why we have these devices that just drive us crazy, right? Because you're scared and afraid to get lost in your own thoughts. Social media, particularly short form scroll, like the brother was saying up there, content induces a state of high beta frequency. High beta frequency. While beta waves, see that? If you're a constant scroller, you're not an alpha. You're not an alpha male. If you're a constant scroller, you are a beta male. Beta induces a state of high beta frequency. While beta waves are necessary for focused tasks, chronic exposure to rapid fire stimuli keeps the brain in a state of high alert and anxiety. Like the brother was saying, he said it was causing him to have anxiety, right? We're covering this stuff today. You know, he said it was causing him to have anxiety. Alpha waves, 8 to 12 hertz. These are the waves of relaxed alertness and the gateway to the subconsciousness. Social media suppresses alpha waves. You see that? It suppresses these waves, making it impossible for you to enter the state of sober vigilance commanded in 1 Peter 5 and 8. Let's look at that. Let's look at 1 Peter 5 and 8. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. How are you going to know, right? The adversary. When the adversary has got you locked into his screen, he got you locked into his screen time. He got you locked in X or Twitter or whatever. He got you locked on your streaming service. He got you locked in. How are you going to know the adversary? The adversary has got you. Theta waves, 4 to 8 hertz. These are the waves of deep meditation, prayer, and creativity. That's why I said it's okay to be bored, because boredom creates creativity. Brain rot bypasses these entirely, ensuring your mind never settles long enough to hear the voice of the Most High. The dopamine loop and frontal loop thinning. The science mentioned in your 30-day digital sanctification is grounded in the reality of neuroplasticity, right? And what that is, plasticity, is how well you bounce back from something, right? Like, you know, you go into the gym, you're working out, you have a certain plasticity where you have failure in your muscles, but then later on, after you recover, you recoup, you start getting strong, you can lift more weights, right? So that's what that is. Constant scrolling creates a dopamine desert. Receptor down regulation. When you bombard your brain with likes and reels, your brain reduces the number of available dopamine receptors to protect itself, because everything wants to live. Your brain wants to live. This is why the word of the Most High feels boring to the addicted. Have you ever been reading the Bible and next thing you know, you just kind of fall asleep? You know, that's because your dopamine receptors are pretty much shot, right? So things just feel boring to you. So now you got to refocus yourself, right? Reconcentrate. You find as soon as you open the Bible, you start reading. After the first chapter, you start getting sleepy, right? That's because your brain is so wired on having that rush. right? You wanted those flashing lights and stuff in front of your face. Your brain has physically lost the ability to feel joy from subtle holy stimuli. From subtle holy stimuli, because the scriptures is the holy book. Prefrontal cortex atrophy. This is pretty much your atrophy is like, you lose strength, you lose muscle strength, right? Heavy social media use is linked to decreased gray matter density in the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is the seat of judgment. This is how you know how to make right decisions, right from wrong. Again, that prefrontal cortex is not fully developed until you're 25. This is why when you're your teenage years all the way up into 25, you make stupid decisions. You make dumb choices, right? Sometimes they can be really bad and it's throw away the rest of your entire life. This is why juveniles are tried different from adults, because their prefrontal cortex hasn't fully developed yet, right? This is why a child that does child unaliving, he may get a certain amount of years, but then when he gets older, he's free to go, right? Because the prefrontal cortex hasn't fully developed. When it thins, you lose the visual guards needed to turn your eye from vanity. You become a slave to impulse, right? Impulsive. You see, you want, you buy. The delta disruption, the trial of faith, the anxiety and insomnia in the first 14 days of the process are due to delta wave interference. So when you're going through this 30-day fasting, understand that you're going to want to pick up your device. You're going to want to go to social media and whatever platforms you go on to. You're going to want to do that, right? Like when you're fasting, you're going to want to eat, but after a period of time, that fasting gets easier and easier and easier, right? Same thing for going to the gym. The first few weeks, you're like, man, I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to do this no more. But after a while, it starts becoming a routine where you miss a gym day, if something don't feel right no more. Blue light and circadian rhythm. The artificial light from the device inhibits melatonin. This is why they got things on your device that makes it turn into a blue screen or a gray screen over a certain time, because they know that they're selling you something that's detrimental to you. So they have to put little things in there that combat, you from getting some type of ailment or whatever, right? The artificial light from the device inhibits melatonin, preventing the brain from reaching deep delta sleep from 0.5 to 4 hertz. The reset. Without delta sleep, the brain cannot clear metabolic waste, right? And that's what you call your glymphatic system, right? That's the metabolic waste. For your glymphatic system to refresh, it takes about anywhere from 6 to 7 hours of uninterrupted sleep, and that's for your glymphatic system, not to be confused with your lymphatic system. Your glymphatic system to put new fluid in it's that fluid that's in your brain that holds your brain, right? Shalom out there. Shalom, Justin. Your withdrawal is the brain finally attempting to detoxify months of digital filth. You see that? That's what's going to happen during this fast, right? That's your brain trying to detox all those Instagram reels and all that stuff that you were looking at, right? So that's it on that class right there, right? I just found that very important that we covered this right here, because brain rot is real, right? Brain rot is real. My next class is going to be there next week. Most I willing, we're going to be talking about Jacob's trouble and going deep into the Jacob's trouble and what you should be doing to prepare. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel so you can get these videos. You can get this information, right? I created a new segment about health and wealth, food preparation, and how to it's going to be about food preparation and survival and things that you need to know in this world right now. Not knowing about, what is Nicki Minaj talking about and Donald Trump, and no, things that you need to know to survive, right? Things that you need to know to make it through Jacob's trouble, right? Make sure you be on the lookout for Elder Priest Yahawah's class this week, and also the Sabbath class at camp. And with that, I want to say Kwam Abanaw Yahawah, Kwam Hamashiach Yahawah Shai, and Kwam Yasha Allah. Shalom.